All right, folks, welcome back. We are doing our position, mini-series, talking about the free agents, because I'm ready to get to the draft, but I'm powering through these free agent position groups for you guys. I think I have, I think it's wide receiver now and just tight end. And I think safety as well. So we'll do those three. Then, any news that comes up, and then we're doing the draft. Like, I'm going head on into the draft. Don't worry. I will catch up. Anyway. So before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. You can follow me at Bogen, and you can check out my brand new unfiltered podcast, although we've had like 15 episodes now. So you can check that out. Link is in the description. Let's dive into it. So starting with the Rams, wide receivers currently on the roster going into 2024. The Rams are set to have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Austin Trammell, who is an exclusive rights free agent, likely will be back, and Xavier Smith on a futures deal. They have $128 million in cap space in 2025. The reason I always bring that up is because it lets you know where they stand as far as having a restructured contract or two. They have $35 million currently. Now, you have to keep in mind, and this is important, there are going to be guys that are projected for X amount of dollars, and that's what they're projected for average annual. But when you're fiddling with the cap, you can sometimes change numbers. The Rams do it all the time. So just because a guy seems really expensive doesn't mean he wouldn't be an option. And I don't even know if the Rams go this route. I know there's some people out there saying the Rams should trade Tutu Atwell. I disagree. I think they should just use him. But we now know that the Rams want to use 4 receivers. We saw that this past year. So we'll start off at the bottom here because PFF ranked the wide receivers. And I have the list here. I'll go through those. But I just wanted to talk about guys that didn't make their list for whatever reason. DeMarcus Robinson, does he come back? Does he not? He had one of his best years of his career, and he only played since, week 11? So in reality, I think DeMarcus Robinson could be brought back. This is a really beefy wide receiver class. I'm not going to lie to you. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams could get him a decent price there. It's not like he set the world on fire. He was very good down the stretch, but at the same time, the numbers aren't exactly in the thousands. So he could be brought back at a decent value. Another guy to look out for, and I'm a really big fan of his. I actually will go out on a limb and say this. If the Rams could get him, I would do it. Like, it might cost a little bit, and it might be hard. But the 49ers, Jawan Jennings, who is set to be a restricted free agent this year. I don't know what they're going to tender him at. I would imagine it's probably going to be like a second rounder. But even still, maybe it's not. I'm not giving up a second round pick, but if it's not if it's just a regular tender, I'm absolutely going after Jawan Jennings. One of the best blockers in the league at wide receiver. He already runs kind of an iteration of Sean McVay's offense, the Kyle Shanahan offense, and he's just Mr. Reliable over the middle. I think he gives you kind of the same thing that DeMarcus Robinson gives you, and he's probably, I don't know if he'll be cheaper, but he's younger. He's 3 years younger. He's going to be 27 next year, so he's the guy I really like. Van Jefferson, he'll be 28 next year. Do the Rams maybe bring him back on a 1-year prove-it deal? I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I think they gave him his opportunity to go to the Falcons. The Falcons' offense was gross. I mean, Arthur Smith did a horrible job calling the plays there. So, I mean, maybe Van comes back. Maybe he goes and, wherever his dad is. I don't really know, but I mentioned him. I figured I'd mention Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's 25 years old, can block, can return. I think that return ability is intriguing. So he's a guy at the deadline the Lions traded for. Wouldn't mind going after Donovan Peoples-Jones. He has an 800-yard season on his resume going back with the Browns. It just didn't work with Deshaun Watson this past year, so they ended up trading him. Devin Duvernay, more of a return guy, 27 next year. Same thing with Brandon Powell, 28 next year, more of a return guy. Tyler Johnson, the Rams can bring back. I believe he is an exclusive rights free agent or a restricted free agent. Either way, I do think that they can bring him back, and I think they'll probably do so. So Tyler Johnson is a name to keep an eye on. He's going to be 26 next year, still really young, was on the Rams the whole year, worked his way, into that 53-man roster because he was on the practice squad the whole season and even caught a touchdown in the game that he was activated in. Here's the thing. You got to be able to block for Sean McVay. And I'm going to go down the list and tell you exactly how good these guys are according to PFF, which you can take with a little bit of a grain of salt. At the same time, I think their their blocking grades are actually the best thing on the entire site. So I actually do like their blocking grades. I do think they match up well. But let's talk about their list now. So right now, as their list stands, number 1 on the wide receiver list, number 4 on their list is T. Higgins. T. Higgins, they have a 1-year, $20.7 million average, a year. They have essentially he's going to be franchise tagged. I don't know if that's the case, honestly. He very well could, but I could also see him getting traded before this. I could see him getting tagged and traded. I don't know if the Bengals will just up and let him go, but if they did, T. Higgins on this team, a guy that is one of the better blocking wide receivers in the league. I don't think he gets enough credit. He's definitely in that top 15. PFF, I think, ranked him at 11th. I'll check, later on in the video. But T. Higgins, jump ball ability, we've seen it. The guy is an alien. And the Rams tried that with Allen Robinson, and I thought you saw some flashes of what, that jump ball receiver, with Matthew Stafford, what that could look like. Well, I'll tell you this right now. If Matthew Stafford was throwing to T. Higgins, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Tutu Atwell, that's the best receiver room I've seen in a minute. I mean, I don't know what's going to be better than that. If Cooper Kupp goes back to how he was, not even the Triple Crown season, but 2022, before he got hurt, and then you got T. Higgins playing like an alien, and then you got Puka Nacua in his second year coming off a record-breaking season, and then you got Tutu Atwell stretching the field. That would make for something crazy. I don't know where the Bengals stand on this. If they do tag him, I actually think he'd be traded. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. He's 25, and yes, that's great, and you don't want to let a guy like that go. At the same time, though, Jamar Chase, you're going to have to pay him. The injuries caught up with him this past year. So maybe the Bengals are kind of looking to just, get out of this thing. They don't want to pay a ton of money because you can't pay him 20-something million, and then you're going to have to pay 30-something million to Jamar Chase. So you don't want to spend like over $60 million on 2 wide receivers or around that. So I think at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they move T. Higgins. I don't really see him being back. I don't know if I would make that move, but that's kind of what I feel like the Bengals are going to do. So could be wrong, but I kind of feel like T. Higgins is going to get traded this offseason on the tag, but we'll see what ends up happening. Is he an option for the Rams? I mean, a first and a third. I think if the Rams traded a first and a third for T. Higgins, I think they acquire him. But now all of a sudden you have to pay him. And you're already paying Cooper Kupp a lot of money. You'll have to pay Puka Nacua down the road. What's the deal with Tutu Atwell? Contract year, you're going to pay him. So these are things they have to figure out. But T. Higgins is definitely worth the bread, I think, as long as he stays healthy. And I mean, this year was disappointing, but he still flashed some serious potential. I like him a lot. I don't know if he's an option for the Rams, but if they were looking to upgrade, he'd be the number 1 guy, I think. All right, so their 11th guy, number 2 wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. played his college ball at USC, so I'm sure a lot of you guys, USC fans, would love him to be a Ram. That said, they have the tag on Michael Pittman Jr., and to be honest with you, I think Chris Ballard and the Colts are going to put that tag on Michael Pittman Jr. I think they want to see him develop with Anthony Richardson long-term. I do not see it being where they're going to let this guy go. I don't think there's anybody in that receiver room where you're like, yeah, we could just let Michael Pittman go. We're fine. Alec Pierce, I like Alec Pierce. He's a really good blocker, and he's developing as a receiver. But after Alec Pierce, you have Josh Downs. Josh Downs is a slot receiver, right? He's the guy you want over the middle. He's reliable. He can make plays after the catch. But that number one receiver that you can trust in Michael Pittman Jr., who's been consistent for you, I don't see them getting rid of him. Now, if he was available, that would be interesting. My issue is that the Rams, they like blocking receivers, and he's not a great blocker. Now, I will say this is a big caveat. I think the Rams put more of an emphasis on blocking, and the 49ers, than any other team in the league. And so with that said, I think guys that come to the Rams would likely do better as blockers. Even if they struggled now, I think they would clearly have their best season with the Rams. I think there's a heavy emphasis in coaching. And so I want to say that before I say, any of these other guys, because Michael Pittman Jr., not the best blocker, but if that was the one thing that you were holding back from him being a Ram, I don't think that'd be enough. I think the Rams can develop that, and they can take care of that, and guys have their best seasons as blockers when they're with the Rams. So I think Pittman Jr. would be fine, but this year he's going to get paid. I think the Colts tag him. Would be intriguing to see if the Rams, I don't know if the Rams trade for him. I think Higgins makes a lot of sense because he's got superstar potential. I think Michael Pittman Jr. is kind of that tier below. He's like an A-, B+ type of receiver, which is really, really good. But do you pay that guy the same amount you're paying to Cooper Kupp, the same amount you want to pay to Puka Nacua, assuming his career stays on the same track? That's the question. Number 3 here, number 13 overall for them, they have Mike Evans, who they don't have getting tagged. Here's the interesting thing with Mike Evans. He's projected to have a 3-year, $23 million over those 3 years deal. So that's 3 years, $69 million. That's a lot of money. He's 30 years old. He's been nicked up and had some injuries, soft tissue injuries, nagging soft tissue injuries. So what does that look like? I mean, first off, I don't think he's particularly great as a blocker, but at the same time, this guy is insane. I mean, 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's so consistent. So I don't think there would be like an Allen Robinson drop-off. The problem is you're paying him $23 million for 3 years, maybe a 1-year deal, but even still, how realistic is this? Think about that. Because I know a lot of people, they want receivers. How realistic is this for the Rams to spend this much money on a 30-year-old receiver? I know he's on the cover of the video. I know he's in the thumbnail because he's known. People click on it, and this isn't clickbait because I'm giving you plenty of content. But also, he's well-liked, and people have connected him to the Rams. I don't see it. I think Mike Evans, in a nutshell, for like a year would be so fun with Matthew Stafford. I don't see this, though, being something the Rams would do. Because this is the last, this is where you can have some overlap, where you could grab a guy that can help you now with Stafford, with Kupp, with Donald, and finish out this era of Rams football and bleed into the next era. But Mike Evans would just be this era. I think the argument here is if you're going to go wide receiver, T. Higgins is available, you get T. Higgins. You're going to go wide receiver, you want to go young. I don't even know if Michael Pittman makes a ton of sense just because they already have Puka Nacua. But maybe Michael Pittman. Mike Evans at 30 years old, paying that much, $23 million a year, rumored to be up to 25. I'm going to pass on that one. But I love the consistency. No knock on him. Probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Deserves a lot of credit. I don't know if he's a great fit for the Rams. Moving on, the 4th receiver here, number 17th overall on their list, Marquise Brown. I'm going to be blunt as hell on this one. Okay? He's 26. He'll be 27 this year. The projected contract is a 1-year, $12 million deal. I would actually be really frustrated if the Rams signed Marquise Brown. Do you know why? It's not because of the drops, because he's had plenty of those. That's a big reason why the Ravens got rid of him. No. You know why I'd be upset? Because they have this on the roster. I've said it. Tutu Atwell is no different than Marquise Brown. Elite speed, ball tracking ability, can force a, pass interference call. I think he plays a little bit more above the rim for his size. Just use Tutu Atwell. If it got to the point where you feel like you have to pay $12 million to Marquise Brown, then you failed with Tutu Atwell, because he can do what the way he started off this year. It's it's the biggest mystery, because they just didn't use him after that. Like, he was just the clear out guy. He was just the decoy. He would stretch out the field and other guys would take advantage. I'm not out on Tutu Atwell. I don't think you should be. I don't think the Rams are. I can't see them going Marquise Brown, especially because Atwell is a much better blocker. It's not even an argument. I think Brown's a solid receiver. I think he's overrated, though, and I think Atwell could do what he's doing if he got those opportunities. So I would pass on Marquise Brown. Then you have at 24th overall, and by the way, overall, I mean all of their free agents, he's 24th. This is their 5th wide receiver. He's going to be, he's 29 now. He'll be 29 throughout the season. That is the Jacksonville Jaguars' Calvin Ridley, who went over 1,000 yards this year. Calvin Ridley missed the whole season due to the gambling issue. They have him at 2 years, $32.5 million. I actually really like that, but I don't know if Calvin Ridley fits what the Rams are trying to do. He's not a great blocker. Again, would be a better blocker with the Rams, but he's 29. Like, I could see them maybe going after the 25, 26 type, for the big dollars, and 16.5, it's not the worst. It's not bad, but you're already paying a lot to receivers on the roster, or at least they're paying a lot to one receiver on the roster. So I don't think they go this route. But it would be fun to watch Calvin Ridley catch passes from Matthew Stafford. I will say that. I'm a big fan of Calvin Ridley. Loved watching him this year. A little bit of inconsistency in Jacksonville, but I wouldn't hate it. I just don't see them going that route. I think if they go with the big dollar free agent, all that, if they decide to do that, then they're probably going to go with a T. Higgins who's available via trade. Pittman, Mike Evans. I don't see them going out after Calvin Ridley for 16, but I could be wrong. Next one I could tell you I'm not wrong. Number 6 is Darnell Mooney, who I don't think should be this high. I think he's been just a shell of himself since 2021. He's just not reliable, not a good blocker. I know he had 1,000 yards, 81 receptions in 2021. 2022 and 2023, he does not impress me. I would not pay Mooney $9 million, which is what they're projecting. I would not pay Mooney that, period. So I'm going to have to pass on Mooney there. We'll get into the 7th right after a message from our sponsor, Manta Sleep, which, by the way, today's sponsor, of course, Manta Sleep. If you guys haven't watched my videos, then you don't know. This mask is awesome. Okay, what this does, I have glasses on, so I'm not going to put it on, but just imagine it's like that, it's over my eyes. And this thing's so adjustable. This is the Manta Sleep, the sound mask. These are actually razor thin headphones that can go right in your ear hole. You just slide it with these tabs. Amazing quality. I couldn't believe how good the quality was, by the way. 20 plus hours of battery life, 0%, when you're talking about pressure on your nose or your eyes, 0%. And this is 100% blackout. So love using the mask. Again, I will not, and I've said this before, I will not be sponsored by a company that I don't believe in and a product that I don't believe in. And this is a product that I use every night. It's promoting better sleep, which is promoting better habits. I'm going to the gym more. Like, it's completely changed my life in a sense, which is seems ridiculous, but it's not if you realize what I've been doing. So look, you can get your Manta Sleep mask today. Go to manasleep.com. Use promo code JKBogan. The link is in the description below. You'll get 10% off your purchase. So Manta Sleep, JK Bogan, 10% off. Back to the video. All right, guys. So Gabe Davis is number 7 here, 63rd on the PFF rank. They have him at a 1 year, $12 million. If Gabe Davis was a better blocker, this would intrigue me. I mean, it still intrigues me to a degree. And you know, he was a better blocker in college, but still, I mean, 25 years old, he'll be this year. I think there's an argument there, but he has so many disappearing acts in that Bills offense. Was that the Bills? Was that him? I don't really know. I think part of it was him. I think really with him, though, is that having that speed is great, but you do already have that in Tutu Atwell. A 1 year deal, I mean, this guy's just going to supplant Tutu Atwell at that point. So I don't really see the point of it. You still have Atwell on a rookie deal. I don't really get the whole Gabe Davis thing here, so I'm going to pass on that one. Then number 8 here on their list, 69th overall, is Odell Beckham Jr. at 1 year, $10 million. Didn't have the best blocking grade, but he had the second highest receiving grade according to PFF from weeks 9 through 14, only behind Tyreek Hill this year. I think this is somebody who would have been a Ram had the 2022 season gone better. I think he was holding out hope to be a Ram, and what ended up happening was the Rams were bad. They went 5-12. He didn't even come back to the game. He comes back this year, and it took him a little bit to get going, and when he did, you could see, okay, this is the Odell, you know, right around the Super Bowl, right? He's 31. You know, he'll be 32 at the very end of the season. A 1 year deal to kind of come out to back to LA, try to chase another championship. I don't have any issue with it, to be honest with you. This would be replacing DeMarcus Robinson. $10 million might be a little much, but you know, I'm sure they could work it out with incentives and things like that. Would be interesting. So I think, I mean, I know a lot of people in that LA locker room, a lot of people in that organization love Odell. Wouldn't be surprised if they go receiver here and they don't bring back DeMarcus Robinson. I think Odell would be the likely option there. So keep an eye out for Odell. Again, he's older, and I get that. And I said, you know, I don't want to contradict myself here, but my point here is you're paying $10 million to Odell at 31 years old, and Calvin Ridley at 29, you'd be paying 16. That's in a different ballpark. He's also going to want more than 1 year deal. Mike Evans, you're paying, he's 1 year younger than Odell, and you'd be paying him almost $25 million. You got to be careful because of what you already have invested in Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, you know, Matthew Stafford. You don't have all the cap space in the world, and you don't have a ton of options to move it around. So I think Odell does make some sense in that regard. Plus, I'd love to have him back. I'm sure most of you would as well. Moving on here, number 9 is Tyler Boyd, 74th PFF grade. This is somebody who, by the way, 74th all free agents. This is somebody who I wouldn't be surprised Cincinnati brings back. He was part of a dynamic trio with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. More of the slot type, so I don't know if he makes a ton of sense for the Rams. Not as good of a blocker as I would like him to be. He's 29, a 2 year, $17.5 million deal. I mean, hey, I like Tyler Boyd. He's, you know, reliable. Had his worst season, I think, of his career this past year. But to be fair, Joe Burrow was never healthy. He was working with quarterback who he didn't even work with because that quarterback wasn't working with the starters. So, you know, some things happened that could have led to his career low marks for 2023. I think Boyd's intriguing. I wouldn't be against it. I don't know if I see the point, but yeah, Tyler Boyd. There you go. Okay. So number 10 to wrap up the top 10 here in the PFF rating, 76th overall free agent, Curtis Samuel, who will be 28 at the very end of the season. Samuel, 2 years, $18 million. That's $9 million average year. Look, that's not bad. And Samuel was used a lot. It's intriguing because having Samuel is like kind of having like a Debo Samuel, if you will. Kind of does that, you know, the do-it-all, you know, kind of thicker build, more like a running back. If the Rams wanted to go that route, and I'm not saying Curtis Samuel is Debo Samuel, I think Debo's a better blocker, but Curtis Samuel could be an intriguing one here. Again, that Swiss Army knife. Tutu Atwell can do some of that, but at the consistent level that Curtis Samuel does it at because of his body composition, not quite. So if the Rams did want to go after that, who knows, they watch the Super Bowl against the Chiefs next Sunday and they're like, we need that, then maybe they go after Curtis Samuel. I don't know. But I also will say, I think they already have that Deebo Samuel in Puka Nacua. I know some people will disagree, but I think Puka Nacua, and I said it when the Rams drafted him, I was like, I kind of see him as kind of like a Puka Nacua clone, a Deebo Samuel clone. But I think he's better than Deebo Samuel already. He just has those run after the catch ability, like aspects to his game. So that's number 10. Number 11, and by the way, I would be for Samuel. Number 11, Kendrick Bourne. He's a receiver I've always really liked. Went to Eastern Washington as well as Cooper Kupp, so that's intriguing there. The thing about Bourne here is that when you look at Kendrick Bourne, he's another reliable receiver. I mentioned Jawan Jennings. He's in that mold, can help you over the middle. He had some inaccurate passes come over the middle his way. I think he did a really nice job before he unfortunately tore his ACL in week 8. He was the cleared number 1 option in New England before that happened. He worked with the 49ers. He's a good blocker, wasn't great with the Patriots, but I'm sure you could get him going like he was with the Niners. 2 years, $14 million coming off an ACL tear in week 8. He should be ready to go by the start of the season. I mean, his 2021 season was really good. 2022 wasn't the best. 2023, I mean, again, the torn ACL kind of sidelined him. I like him. $7 million coming off a torn ACL. I'd like that a little bit lower, but I do like him. DJ Chark, former teammate of Matthew Stafford's, he is listed as the 12th wide receiver on the board there for PFF. He's 27. He's 108th overall in the free agency grades. 2 years, $15.5 million. I don't know if I see the reason for that. I feel like he's kind of dropped off since some of the injuries. I'd like him maybe around 4 or 5. I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams went out and got him. But again, he's one of those guys that can really take off the top of the defense. And, to me, that's what Tutu Atwell does. So I don't know. I don't know what direction they go in. But my next guy here, who's number 13th, I don't know why. I have a really good feeling, even though he's in his 30s, he has, I mean, it hasn't gone well for him. Let's just call it like it is. Missed all of 2021. He set the receptions record that Cooper Kupp, I believe, ended up breaking. Maybe he fell short. I actually don't remember. But Michael Thomas. The reason why I say Michael Thomas is this, okay? They have him at a 1-year, $8 million deal. So Michael Thomas, at one point or another, was one of the top 5 best receivers. His release package off the line of scrimmage was unmatched. His footwork was incredible. They called him Slant God or Slant Boy or whatever, but in reality, he's just a really good receiver. Well, then, unfortunately, some injuries happen. I don't really know the whole story. I don't think anybody does. It seemed like the injuries were like Ben Simmons-esque, where you're like, what do you do now? But Michael Thomas started showing you, okay, he might be back to his old self a little bit. Only have 490 snaps this year. If the Rams could get him cheaper and have him and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell, I think that'd be intriguing. I think Thomas can block. He can run routes. I think he'd be a natural fit for the offense, and I think he's someone that's desperately, at this point, he's trying to win a ring because we don't know how much longer his career is going to be since he's had the injuries. He's also trying to salvage his career. And what better way to do that than to go into Sean McVay's offense, to play with Matthew Stafford, to play alongside Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Tutu Atwell and Kyron Williams? I mean, it'd be a perfect fit, I think. Now, could we get that cost down? I mean, I don't think $8 million's bad, but maybe we get that cost in a little bit more incentive-based, have a lot of injury guarantees, things like that. I don't know how big his market's going to be. He's gone down considerably, which is really sad when you think about how great he was. He had like over 170 receptions in a season one time. I still think he's really talented. I think the injuries have robbed him of showing people that. I think maybe being around a better, training staff. I mean, Reggie Scott and what the Rams have is one of the best in the league. Maybe that would help. But he's 115th. He's 13th overall for receiver. Don't know if I agree with that. I'd put him maybe ahead of Chark, maybe ahead of Bourne, but intriguing option there. Number 14 is Josh Reynolds. I don't think anybody wants to see him right now because he dropped those passes in the NFC title game, but familiarity with Sean McVay's offense, 2 years, $10.5 million. If they wanted to get somebody like that, Reynolds will be 29 this year. One of the better blocking receivers you'll find in the league. I mean, I could kind of see it. I don't think that they'll go back to him, but I mean, the blocking thing does add some value there. So it's worth mentioning. Nick Westbrook-Akine is number 15 here. And I like him. I like his route running ability. I like that he's a viable option over the middle. He's viable on third downs. 1 year, $2.75 million a year. I actually like that deal. My problem is he's just not a great blocker. So if you feel like, hey, he's going to be 27, we could turn him into a good blocker. Maybe we get him for a year. He might not be a bad option. Then you have KJ Osborne at 2 years, $10 million. It's only $5 million a year. Can stretch the field, but he can also help you underneath, slants, things like that. I like Osborne. I think he suffered when Kirk Cousins went down with the injury, but I like him. He's going to be 27 this year, perhaps. And then Noah Brown, who blew up in a couple of those games playing with CJ Stroud, 2 years, $7 million. That's 3.5 a year. He's a little intriguing there. 28 years old, maybe late bloomer. Maybe he found his stride. If so, if you can get him that cheap, maybe that's interesting enough to do it. But if I'm the Rams, I got to be honest with you. The names that I love the most here, first off, T. Higgins. If you can get T. Higgins, I'm for it. I'm signing off a trade where you trade a first rounder and a third rounder for T. Higgins. You're getting that guy at 25. You can sign him long term and he replaces that Cooper Kupp contract. And you've had multiple big contracts at wide receiver on the books before, so you could still pay Puka Nacua. I just think what T. Higgins brings to the table with what Matthew Stafford can do with the football, I think T. Higgins would be huge. Another guy to keep an eye on, and I'm actually going to pass on Pittman and Mike Evans. I'm going to pass on Marquise Brown. I like Ridley, but I'm going to pass on him. I'm going to pass on Mooney. I'm going to pass on Gabe Davis. Odell would be number 2. I think Odell Beckham Jr., the fit obviously is there. I think he'd be really good in return. I think Samuel would be up there. So I really like Odell, Samuel, in no order really, except Higgins definitely at the top. Odell, Curtis Samuel, Michael Thomas would be in there. And then I'd say DeMarcus Robinson, again, no order aside from Higgins being at number 1. Jawan Jennings, Donovan Peoples-Jones, those are my guys. I think if the Rams can get Jawan Jennings, he's one of those under-the-radar guys that no one talks about, that if he was in a bigger role with the Rams, he would be an absolute stud. Like, I'm really high on him. I think he would fit this offense like a glove. Again, 3rd per PFF in run blocking. Are you serious? I think the only one he's behind is Puka Nacua and Brandon Ayuk. So, yeah, I think Jawan Jennings would be great. He's a restricted free agent, but if they could make it work somehow, I'd love Jawan Jennings to be a Ram. Michael Thomas was 26th according to PFF in run blocking grade. I'd be all for that. I'd like Curtis Samuel to be higher than 93rd. But if they're looking for like a Debo Samuel type, I like Curtis Samuel's fit. Odell was 119th. He was a better blocker with the Rams. I think he'd be a better blocker with the Rams anyway. And then T. Higgins was 12th according to PFF, not 11th. So I was wrong on that one. DeMarcus Robinson was 8th, by the way. So 3rd was Jawan Jennings. 8th was DeMarcus Robinson. T. Higgins was 12th, Odell was 119th, and Michael Thomas was 26th. Those are the guys on my list, as well as Curtis Samuel, if they want to go that route. If I had to make a guess on any of these guys, I kind of don't see a scenario here where the Rams don't get one of DeMarcus Robinson or Odell. I think it's going to be a reunion, whether it's, DeMarcus coming back for a year or it's Odell. I think the Rams are going to surprise people, even though they have some needs on the defense. I think they're going to tackle more of that in the draft. But I actually think they're going to continue to build out this offense, and I think they're either going to add Odell or DeMarcus Robinson to this offense. DeMarcus Robinson comes back or Odell comes back. We haven't seen Odell. The last time he was wearing a Rams uniform was in the Super Bowl. So I think that's what it's going to be. Dark horse. I mean, I really like the idea of Jawan Jennings. I know it's not T. Higgins, but I think Jennings would be such a good fit. And I haven't felt this good about a fit, like a random fit, right? Like just talking about a random receiver. I haven't felt this good about a fit outside of only one guy. And that was when Jakobi Meyers went to the Raiders. And you saw instantly, Jakobi Meyers was a better receiver on the Raiders than he was with the Patriots. Instantly, you saw that. So those are my thoughts. I think Michael Thomas would also be very intriguing, as I said. But those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Check out my podcast. Link is in the description if you can. That would be much appreciative. And be sure to follow me on social media, all social media, because I'm on TikTok, Instagram, all that, at JK Bogan. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Later, folks. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.